Hey, Deserve listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life. Let's watch.
Good morning. You look very nice.
Thank you, so do you.
Hey, Mom.
Huh.
Hello.
Cole hurt my feelings when he told me he was moving out in 3 months. I was shocked. I was totally shocked, and it's nerve-wracking and scary.
So, good. What do you do with those feelings, though, Debbie? Do you punish your 35-year-old son because he wants to move out with his wife? Or do you just say, hey, you know what? It's really scary to think about living alone, and it feels kind of hurtful, but I know that you don't mean it to hurt me. But, you know, I guess I had this, I don't know, this weird thought that we'd live together for the rest of our lives. But that, of course, is absurd. You know, what do you do with those? That's differentiation. You can look at your feelings and say, yeah, my feelings are there and they're real, and that's okay. But I'm not going to go with those feelings and punish him because of it.
What am I going to do? I'm going to be homeless? He's being a jerk.
Yeah.
So, that's fine. He wants to be a jerk, he can be a jerk.
So she's calling him a jerk, and she is punishing him with a silent treatment. And as I said last week, this really illuminates potentially the ongoing 35-year-long relationship that she's had with him. Because we have to imagine this is not an anomaly. She's had a day to think about it. She's still in that zone. Now, I don't understand all the factors. Maybe Colt is being a jerk, but everything's pointing towards my dogs are barking. What's going on?
I know, but
He can be such a jerk.
I know it's fucked up in your opinion. 3 months is right around the corner, kind of. So I do feel bad, but, you know, we just kind of want to start our own lives now
I don't
that...
blame you.
So, one, I wonder if the mom would be different if he gave her 4 months or 5 months. I'm guessing not, honestly, because it's not like the mom is presenting anything like, hey, I thought we talked about, I needed 4 months. You know, there's nothing like that. So I don't think if there was any timeline, regardless of the timeline, I think the mom would be reacting the same, I think. The other thing is that the mom seems really sure, even the next day, which is interesting and notable, you know, the complete lack seemingly of differentiation. Vanessa is doing something really great right now, and maybe this is why she works well with Colt, is that instead of sitting her down and just blasting her, she you know, you agree, even though I'm guessing Vanessa does not agree with anything Debbie is saying. Debbie's like, oh, he's a jerk, if 3 months isn't enough time. I'm guessing in her mind, she's like, 3 months is more than enough time. Plus, we've been talking about this, and he's been talking about this for years. So, you know. And now the other thing I'll throw out there is we don't know Debbie's financial situation. She talks about being thrown out in the street. You know, there's a possibility that money-wise, she won't be able to afford a home. I have a hard time believing that Colt would just do that to her, so I'm guessing that's not the case. But anyway, I want to commend Vanessa for, you know, agreeing outwardly. Like, yeah, you know, I hear you, but, you know, you got to take things slow. When someone is that distorted, you don't want to just blast them. You want to take it slow, so this is good.
I just don't like the way he came about telling me. Just the blindsidedness of the whole thing.
So this is a pet peeve of mine, actually, and I get it. It's something that people say, but more often this is when breakups happen, that people will almost always say, I don't like the way that they broke up with me. Instead of, which is much more vulnerable, I don't like that they broke up with me. For the mom, I'm guessing she doesn't want to be kicked out. She doesn't want to not live with Colt. She doesn't want to be rejected by him in this way. And there's really no way that he could have communicated it to her so that she would say, okay, I'm fine with that. Or, well, I don't like that you did it, but I like the way that you told me. How else was he supposed to tell her? Was he supposed to hire a marching band or, you know, he just told her, Mom, you know, I think it's time. And he had been talking about it. It wasn't out of the blue. He'd been talking about it. We've seen him talking. I thought they would have moved out a long time ago. for a number of seasons now, he's been talking about moving out, even before Vanessa. And the mom should know that this is potentially going to happen. And then he says, I'm really sorry about this, but I can't remember the exact conversation, but, it seemed pretty clear that Colt wasn't callous about it, and said, I'm moving out in 3 months, and so how could he have said it so that Debbie would have been okay with the way that he delivered it? I don't think that's possible. And this is a frequent thing that I'll, again, more often hear people come to me and say, I'll say, how you feeling? They're like, well, I don't like the way that they did it. Now, of course, there's some breakup messages that are unethical, like texting someone. But I've talked about this before. Some people actually would prefer to be broken up with over text. I'll hear that from people because they don't want to be there crying when they get told. They'd rather be told from afar so that they can just sort of process things on their own. So, there's no right way to break up with someone. It's just a matter of like, how do you break up with someone in a way that is respectful of them and is respectful of the relationship, really? And sometimes it's hard to know that because our culture is pretty busted up about this idea. But so I guess we'll use this as a bouncing off point, that if you're ever dumped or rejected in some way, maybe fired from a job, is instead of hyper focusing on the delivery, think about your feelings and just be like, okay, what's happening for me right now? Like, this feels pretty bad. And that's valid. That's, of course, things we should be paying attention to.
When I was younger, the doctor told me I had a problem carrying children. They won't be able to. Years later, I was actually kind of shocked when I got pregnant. But Colt was born really early. He was not expected to live.
All right, interesting. I wish that they would give us this stuff earlier or more of it, because I'm guessing we're going to get some, but not a lot. But this is, obviously pretty interesting stuff here for the parents, at least maybe, and also to see them as young parents, that for Colt, he was, born premature and they didn't know if he was going to make it or not. So that can have a profound effect on everyone involved. And I don't know, but it sounds like maybe we're kind of getting to this, to Debbie talking about this, is that when you're a parent and you have that fragile child and you're told your child might die, you have a very complicated relationship with that infant. Because on one hand, you love that infant and you love that child and you love him and you want to protect him and you think about all that, you worry about him. On the other hand, you might kind of go to this place in your head like, well, don't get too attached because he might die. The other thing that she said is that she was told by physicians that she couldn't have children and that Colt was a miracle baby. And so there can be a lot of meaning. And so you can imagine once he does get out of the woods as an infant and goes home, the mom could feel like this is like a special child. This is a child that was gifted by God on some level, was destined to be, and then also needs a lot of protecting. It can really, I've treated families as they've gone through this entire process from this, from before this period to the after effects. And it's pretty common for parents to be overprotective and overly anxious of children who go through early, because you just kind of get locked in on like, oh my God, they're so fragile and they need me, and which is good, but if it extends too far into development, you can be overprotective and over-controlling and give messages to the child that they're incompetent and they don't know what they're doing. Like a 7-year-old boy, you could imagine 7-year-old Colt wanting to do a sleepover or something. And if Debbie was in that mindset of protect, I need to protect him, he's fragile, she might say, oh, no, you can't do a sleepover. Or he's like, I want to ride a bicycle. And no, you can't do that. And these messages given to Colt like, oh, I can't do those things. Like, I'm incompetent. Oh, okay. And also potential pressure of enmeshment, like, you're my special boy. Maybe we'll get some more data here.
So Colt and I have a kind of a special bond between us, and it's hard for me to let him go. I don't think he ever wants to hurt my feelings or embarrass me Although he does sometimes. He doesn't mean to. He doesn't have a lot of finesse.
Okay, so she's saying that sometimes he hurts my feelings. I think that's pretty common in families. And she's saying it's not that he's a jerk face, it's not that he means to, it's that he doesn't have finesse. That's an interesting way of putting it.
Like, Colt was just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
I was uncomfortable. It's been a long time since I had some strange man in my bed.
Yeah? Did you like it?
I was very disappointed.
Oh, really? Uh-oh, why?
He told me to stop talking at one point.
Yeah, we heard this already, right? Was it on Bears All or was it on the episode from last week? Anyway, she's talking about how Debbie went on a date and they had sex, and that at some point the fellas told her to stop talking. And this is reminiscent of Vanessa's criticism for Colt, that he talks a lot. And what, a lot of people go, ew, mom and son, it's fine. They're both talkative people, and I guess they talk a lot also in bed. It doesn't mean there's an incestuous thing happening, okay? People have qualities that translate to various venues, and so it looks like they're those people. And like I said before, there's nothing wrong with being talkative in bed. There's also nothing wrong with not wanting to be talkative in bed. There's also nothing wrong with saying to someone, hey, can you tone it down a little bit? It's distracting me. You just have to be nice to each other. The way Vanessa talks about Colt, she's really ridiculing and shaming of him instead of just saying, well, he likes to talk a lot. I don't like to talk a lot. And sometimes I have to tell him to stop talking because it distracts me. So let's see how this conversation goes.
That's really odd, because I kind of had that same issue with Colt. Like,
Don't say that.
Jesus, this is too much. You guys?
I think I said this before, but I wonder, especially as time goes on, if Debbie, because right now she's like, oh, don't say that. Don't say I'm like Colt. She knows from the previous tell-all, because Debbie was there, that Colt talks a lot in bed. And she didn't have to reveal that. It's like it was a decision. There's lots of things she could have said, right? But she brought that up. Now, maybe it's extremely relevant, but sometimes I wonder if the mom wants to be seen as very similar to Colt and wants Colt to be seen as very similar to her, because sometimes she kind of plays it up a little bit. And you could imagine that one might want that if you have enmeshment with someone and you want to feel like, look, we have a special connection. She said that we have a special connection. We're very much similar people. We're bound together by blood and by life. And so I wonder if she plays it up a little bit.
Oh, God, don't go there. No. It is really embarrassing for somebody to tell you that you do the same thing in bed that your son does in bed. I don't know, but it is embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing. Oh, my God.
I mean, I wouldn't be that embarrassed. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's, like I said, it's not like, I don't think Colt learned the talkativeness by watching his mom have sex, right? So if Colt and Debbie are both talkative in bed, why would they both share that quality? It could just be random. But more than likely, they're just really talkative people in general. It's not like they learned sexuality from the same place. So I don't know what's embarrassing about it. The other thing is that most people never find out what their parents are like in bed. And I would suspect that if we did, we would find some similarities because of personality differences and genetics, So I don't know. It makes. I don't think it matters. I don't think we need to look into it. But it's just an interesting question, right? Maybe some of y'all know. If any of you know that you're similar in bed to one of your parents, let us know in the comments.
I'm very nervous about meeting someone on a blind date. I don't know anything about them. I don't know what they look like, where they're from. I don't know anything about them. Anytime you meet a new person through anywhere that you don't know, it's nerve-wracking and scary.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.